remember the days when an update would break every mod overnight. But back then, I always knew the mods would eventually be fixed. Now, I'm lucky if even half the mods I rely on ever get fixed. And the rest, well, those just vanish. Sure, classic like the Toxicity series and more farming mods still get some love, but most mods aren't so lucky. But to understand how we ended up here, let's rewind to before modding reached this point. Unturned modding has existed for a long time. So when I say the past, I'm referring to the time pre-2020. So let's start with the All These Firearm mod, which is one of the classics, came out 2017. The More Farm mod also came out in 2017. That one's still getting updates. Clothing expansion and furniture expansion, both those made by a guy named Legalian. Those ones were abandoned but re-uploaded. Then the Lax Military Vehicles, abandoned, very sad. Now there's one other mod that I want to bring up that's in the past that I think is important because it proves a point, and that's the Toxicity mods. Got the backpacks, the lockers, the coins, the crafting, all that stuff. Now, these mods also came out in 2017. I think they're very important and special because they were made public for the community to use. This is very important because I think that most servers don't do this. And this is the first example of a server doing this that I can remember, and probably one of the earliest that did it, and allowed the community to use their stuff after leaving. And I think that's very important, and I want servers to do this more. So I wanted to put special attention to Toxicity mods, as I think it's a very good example of what servers should ideally do. So what do all those mods have in common? Well, they all came out in 2017, and let me tell you, there was a lot of other mods around the same time. The only other mod I could find that was pre-2017 that was very impactful was the Demolition Pack. Most of those mods got overshadowed by newer mods that were still getting updated at the time, but even that one, the Demolition Pack, was still getting updated to this day. I found a mod who was updating that mod to this day. Why do I bring up these mods? Well, I bring them up as a means to demonstrate just how active the Unturned modding community used to be. New public mods were posted almost every week back then. Nowadays, we rarely see this kind of modding coming out these days. It just isn't there. When back in these days, we were seeing so many great mods that really helped keep the game alive and fresh. Now that we've gone over the mods, we should probably start talking about how modding worked on the back end. So obviously, if you're a server owner, you are probably in different servers that we call modding servers. Like you have the Slies, Mordecai's, these servers that you could basically commission content from modders in. These were kind of Wild West for mod commissions. Scamming and fraud were common, and I mean, even once I was scammed myself by a map creator, though. And these modding servers have basically been effectively starved dry by things like Amox. And I want to note that this is a natural process, and it wasn't really malicious that Amox basically took over, but we did have a lot more fractured and more, communal communities back then that allowed for a different dynamic. Among modders broadly, developers would actually put out their most highest quality content on the workshop as a form of advertising to show off their skills. Now, I don't know if this is true, but I was told this by a modder. Maybe it's true for some people, but definitely could have played a big role of why modding was weird and better back then, potentially. Now, the server landscape. Now, back then, commissioning content was not very common. I can tell you this myself since I only ever commissioned once during that era. And that was honestly probably in 2020, just to put it out there. Now, a lot of this was that new public mods came out all the time and servers didn't need to commission content when public content was already there to use. They never had to open up the wallet and spend all their money willy-nilly. Now, this did often lead to many servers having the same or similar mod list, but generally this could be a positive or a negative depending on who you asked. Familiarity and, new things or old things could be good or bad depending on how things are placed, right? Now, I do also want to connect the old idea that obviously the 24 player cap did play a massive role in this. Servers being a lot more spread out and being into much smaller communities did have a massive contribution into this dynamic. So basically there was far less money going into these servers because they just didn't have as much player base to really build up capital and didn't really have that many stores for a lot of these servers. So these smaller communities, rely on the modding community to come up with new things published in the workshop to use to help spice up their servers, which I personally think probably is better than what we currently have. So then, what mods from the old days can you guys remember? Have those mods been continuously updated with new content? Or, like a lot of these other mods I've brought up, have they been abandoned or updated by somebody else to keep them working? Because I've been seeing a lot of this, and honestly, I want to see from you guys what mods you guys have been looking at and what those dynamics of those mods are currently looking like. I ask these questions because it does feel like mods have become more and more private, and the few public mods we do have are kept up with duct tape to ensure they work. And even then, updates continuously break them, and who knows, they won't get updated anymore. We should move on to Chapter 2. Now we're on to the present, and this is where I really want to bring up some of my complaints. We need to talk about the fact that old mods are consistently and continuously being updated, fixed, and reused. I've seen this happen to so many mods that it's just like, where's the new things? Where are the new things coming out? When do we get better? Or I guess better is subjective here, but why? I understand why. You know, you want to keep the things that you're using working. I'm consistently seeing among like asset mods for maps, which I guess makes way more sense for this to be happening, but even among other gun mods, I don't know. There's a lot of mods that just continuously get updated and fixed. And we got the Industrial Horde Beacon mod and a few others that are just always need to be working. Obviously, the Epic Gears pack is probably the best example of this. It was first fixed by a person named Siller, and then by Camilla, my friend, and then Siller again. It's just like a rodeo just going out and constantly woo, 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 just to fix these things. I mean, obviously the Domination gun pack, that one's still getting updated. Originally it was posted in 2015, and there's fixed versions still getting updates in 2025. It's insane. I mean, this is definitely a positive for the community, but it does make me want to point out that, you know, we're not getting new things. I mean, I just don't really know what to say about it. It's just like, is this a sign the community is dying, or the fact that maybe something else is happening? Though I cannot stress that I understand why modders themselves are choosing to abandon things. It makes sense. But a lot of this is coming down to the fact that a lot of these modders are doing things like commissions, and they're not making their mods public anymore to the community. Now, the massive drop in public mods definitely is a result of the community becoming far more private, and the consolidation of servers is definitely not great into these large networks has definitely not been a great thing for the community overall. We'll move on to the next part, Modpacks. So if you don't know what Modpacks are, basically it's reusing a ton of public mods with permission in a giant one workshop mod. Server owners do this to be able to edit the files inside to make their own stats and values, add crafting recipes, all different types of things. So Modpacks generally aren't inherently a bad thing. They're a necessity as a result of how Unturned works. You need to modify the values, can't really do it in game, so you kind of have to do it in a mod pack. You'll probably notice on a lot of mod pages, there's tons of server owners constantly asking for permission to upload them to their mod packs. I myself have done this, and I will show you right here my massive list of permissions to use different things. I do think it's important to note that this is obviously not a bad thing, but oftentimes when these server owners get custom content and they put it in their mod packs, what often tends to happen is that these content die when these servers shut down. And what I mean by that is that they just disappear, no longer ever to be used, even though the server's gone. They don't release it to the public. I can understand why they don't want to do this, and it is their right to decide what they want to do with the content that they paid for. I can't help but say that this is a negative for the community who could really desperately use all these things if you're not going to use it anymore. What I will say is that maybe you should be charitable with the content you have. And don't worry, I'm not tooting out my own horn here. I have done this before. The Quixotic Gun Pack, which was originally a custom mod made for Hydroponic, was uploaded to the workshop for free for anyone to use. Now we should get on to talking about AMOX. Now, AMOX basically is something that a lot of server owners are using now alongside developers, and it is a Discord server that allows developers and server owners to be connected to each other. Now, AMOX takes 15% of profits from the developers, but it also provides tools and software to developers for commissions. They also help with refundability and payment security, all that kind of stuff, and helping with stolen content, yada yada. They also have a massive advertising ability for specific devs to help them with connections and defining work. And well, it's professional. And no, I'm not saying all this to glaze them up. I'm just saying that because I don't want to be coming off as attacking them. Generally, this professionalization of all these different things has certainly made the community further along the privatization of everything. So while I don't have anything bad to say about them, I think it's important to bring them up because they're a big part of the major shifts of the modding community. Not only for modding too, but also plugin development, which to be fair, the plugin development was hell even back in the past, so anything is positive for that. Now, the last thing I'll bring up for the present is private servers. Now, private servers are generally something that's pretty unknown at the moment, but they're basically a new thing that's coming up and becoming more popular in the Unturned community. And basically what it is, there's generally higher quality servers that require money or some other form of cost to enter. And a lot of them use external launchers or some kind of modified version of Unturned to play. Now, I'm considering making a video on private servers in the future. I'm still not fully versed on what they are, but I do know that they're becoming very big in the community. And I generally am very skeptical of these private servers. It is being a very big furtherance of the privatization and consolidation of the modding community into smaller groups and basically having all these very amazing and high quality things. And they make really great stuff. I've seen some of the work and it's actually spectacular. But it does make me wonder, is this going to be good for the game overall? And I'm not so sure it will be. Especially since, you have to be invited or pay to enter these clubs, basically, to play these really amazing servers. And I don't know. you know, it is very much a lot of toxicity and a lot of like drama there. And while I don't think it's the fault of private servers as a concept of the people that are running them, but again, professionalization, all these other things could be very strange and different. So I'm very skeptical of it. Anyway, let's move on to chapter 3 and get some conclusion and other stuff. Now, we can't really talk about the future without bringing up again private servers. Now, we already just discussed them a little bit ago, but generally, I do think that if the game is going to be going in a direction that it's continuously losing players, as shown, a massive dip here, all the way down to only 10,000 active concurrent. I wonder if the game is going to continuously consolidate into these very private servers instead of being public servers, which generally tend to be much more profit focused. I also think that mods are probably going to be continuously be placed in mod packs, which again, inherently nothing really wrong with those. Again, I think we're going to continuously lose modded content that was commissioned, and it's going to continue to die as more servers have died. Kind of like how semi-RP, the entire genre, recently has been dead. But it is my hope that more server owners will at least consider the possibility of making their assets public as only a way to help bolster the community and allow things to be out there. I understand that it's not easy to do that, but again, I really wish that owners would be more considerate and consider doing things like this. Overall, the state of the game right now isn't very good. I don't think that the game can continue like this forever. We're already losing more and more servers every day. I mean, semi-RP literally just imploded on itself recently. And modding has become like almost non-existent. Like, I don't really see like, any public mods coming out anymore. Obviously, a big part of that is the fact the game's player base has been in a massive decline. But overall, I mean, it's just not great. Even before the game went way down, we weren't having that many public mods. And while it makes sense, we can't have a ton of public mods forever, it hurts a lot. Because a lot of people like playing this game on single player, and I think that they deserve to have new things coming out here and then to keep them happy, right? As I said before, I am going to be starting to try to make some content, things that are not on Unturned. So I guess it doesn't affect me as much, but again, I used to own servers on this game for 8 years, so it does matter to me a lot. Overall, modding is something that I think is very, very important to what made this game very popular, and I think the privatization of the labor of a lot of modders has honestly kind of hurt things a lot for the game. But I understand that, you know, people have to make livelihoods, and I'm not blaming them. Getting this game to be popular takes a lot of stuff. So obviously, I don't really want to like dictate and say, like, oh, they should do this or that. I think that we're not in a good position for this game. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed my thoughts. And yeah, we're almost at 500 subscribers, so maybe subscribe if you like this and would like to support me. Anyway, I will see you guys all next time. Bye-bye.